Welcome to my ANC TV, the final walk to freedom. With me, I have the Deputy Minister of Public Service and Administration, Ayanda Dlodlo. Deputy Minister, welcome to my ANC TV.
Thank you very much.
Before anything else, I think I would like you to take us to the first day you had an encounter with Udada.
Well, it was the only time that I met Udada. I met Udada in London in 1991 when he came to visit President O.R. Tambo. I was one of the receiving soldiers at O.R. Tambo's house in Maswell Hill. But I think for every MK cadre, it's almost like we've known him forever. We've met him so many times. Because the training that we got in the camps was really around what it is that it means to be a freedom fighter. And he was the embodiment of what we should be, what is expected of our people. Hence, we were called people soldiers. So that relationship with him for every soldier of Mkhonto was there, whether you had met him or not. And it actually felt like, because you were part of the military wing of the ANC, that relationship was always there.
I think in my head I'm trying to picture this 17-year-old girl wanting to fight for her country. You know, what inspired you in being involved in such an activity?
You know, in the 80s, a lot of people joined the struggle from the age of 14. I was even old at that age. I mean, it was 14-year-olds that were really at the crux of resistance in the townships. You would remember many townships were on fire during the 1980s. And the burden of liberation could never have been the burden of one individual or a group of people that belonged to one grouping. And for us, it was a natural choice that if you wanted to be free, if you wanted to provide that step ladder for your people to be free, you had to be part of the struggle. So that burden, in a sense, also became a pleasurable one, because the net effect of what you were involved in was what we could all see when what we experienced today. So it was a burden, really, that was not so much of a burden than it was an honor for us to serve our people.
Now, another thing I know about you is that you are a women activist. How did Udada inspire you to become who you are today? Knowing him that, you know, he spoke against a lot of things that were negative in this country, that you also
including gender inequality,
yes,
by the way.
Including gender equality.
And to get men talking about gender inequality and why it is that it is bad and what it is that needs to be done is very inspiring for women. And like President O.R. Tambo, President Nelson Mandela really did champion the cause for women in this country. And if you remember, we always spoke about the triple oppression of the black woman. He was also at the center of ensuring that the programs of the African National Congress did embody that liberation and the emancipation of women.
Now, we've had a lot of tributes also, you know, coming in, people telling a lot of personal stories about Udada. I don't know if you have a personal story. I know you had an encounter with him once. Or what is your fondest moment now that when you're going to look back and remember Udada, or you know, you're reflecting back, what would be your fondest moment?
You know, it's not even so much of a fond moment more than it is a story. You know, when he came to London, it was during the summer in the UK and schools were closed, but it was nearing the end of the summer. And when you got to Maswell Hill, we were there the whole day cooking and making preparations. There was a choir that was preparing to receive him as he was coming in. We were part of the MK choir in London at that time. And there was this little boy who had been standing outside the whole day, having heard that Nelson Mandela is coming to Maswell Hill to visit President O.R. Tambo. That little boy stood outside, and the president arrived quite late. It was already becoming dark. And this poor boy had been there for such a long time. And we all didn't know what to do, because all he wanted was a photo opportunity with the world's greatest hero, so that he could go back to school and show them that he had met Nelson Mandela. Now, I don't know what happened to that little boy who must be a man today, but it's, you know, we went to him and asked if he could take a photo with this little boy, because his father then came through to say, no, he's been standing here only because he'd like to have a photo opportunity. And we walked up to him and we requested that he should do this through his bodyguards, of course. And it was just almost a natural yes. And you would know the story about Nelson Mandela and children. He had that affinity for the little ones.
For the little ones. Okay, now that we have Udada in our memories, we know that he has lived. What do you think now, moving on, we should do as the nation, as the women, as the children, you know, to continue his legacy?
His legacy is the value system of the African National Congress. And what it is that he was also largely to the teachings of the African National Congress. And I think it is incumbent upon all of us to live that value system. He lives with us a legacy of selfless service to the people, of humanity, humility, and peace. And I think for all of us in the African National Congress, young and old, those are the values, the beacons that need to guide us as we move towards the path of liberating our people from economic deprivation. So he leaves a lot for us, but more than anything, it is his humility, his peaceful nature, and his disposition towards others, and like I said earlier on, the little ones. So we would need really to live what it is that he lived within the value system of the African National Congress.
I think Dada is one man that we can, you know, the story doesn't end when we talk about him. And this time I would like to thank you for the opportunity of, you know, coming to us as in my ANC TV. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me.